A short notice debut and a long awaited return. We have the former Dana White's Contender Series 2022 main eventer. It's the Cannibal, Charlie Campbell, in a battle of aggressive nicknames. He's going to be taking on the Executioner, Alex Reyes, a former UFC co-main eventer in a debut. Yes, that's right. For Alex Reyes, he's going to be making the return exactly 6 years to the day from when he replaced Thiago Alves on 3 days' notice to take on Mike Perry. That was UFC Fight Night Rockhold versus Branch in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Yes, Chris Letang.
Where were you
in attendance for that one? Yes, Ian Cole was there as well with Ryan Reeves, Toronto Maple Leafs enforcer. But when you go back and you look at that fight, Matt, Reyes taking it on short notice, former lightweight, and what did they call him? Junior welterweight champ over with King of the Cage. Reyes taking that one on the short notice, fighting a human chicken that was Mike Perry in the build-up to the fight. Reyes with a little bit of nervous energy in the cage, but once they get down to business, it was a little bit of clinch work for Mike Perry. You think he's going to threaten with the elbows like he did against Hot Chocolate Danny Roberts. Instead, he pops that knee up there, and Reyes is out in the first round. So for Reyes, if you don't know the story after that fight, E. coli after a stem cell injection. Then he had spine issues. He's had a litany of injuries to get himself back into the cage. And he has had a little bit of a fallback plan. He does own Cage Combat Academy. His brother, you know him, former light heavyweight title challenger Dominic Reyes. The guys like Carlos Ulberg are calling out when Reyes is on a 4-fight finish losing streak. But for Alex Reyes, what got him to the dance? Really good takedowns. Hyper aggressive in these lightweight fights, and when Alex Reyes gets you down to the mat, it's over. Like, you're toast. And he's one of those interesting guys, kind of similar to a Jack Della Maddalena that's on this card in terms of his record, where Alex Reyes loses his first 2 fights as a pro and then finishes 13 guys in a row like he's Lisa Ann in the 90s, only to make it into the UFC to take on Mike Perry. So Matt, for Alex Reyes, it was a Cinderella story cut short. The glass slipper's gone. I don't know how many more jokes I have left in the chamber. But Matt, I know you were excited about Charlie Campbell coming on to Dana White's Contender Series. You were sold a bill of goods on this guy.
I still am. The guy is an absolute wild man.
And by the jeepers, he might not be credited with all the knockdowns, but I counted 4 knockdowns for Campbell against Chris Duncan, only for him to eat a straight right hand and get dropped in a 1-round barn burner against Duncan last year. Campbell comes back. His last time out, he takes on a tricky fighter known as Josh Streaker, who was 9-5, and knocks him out. So for Campbell, Matt, I had a fun rewatch on his tape, let alone the tape on Alex Reyes, which is very aged at this point. It's like popping in a VCR. But I know you're down to clown when lightweights have knockout power like this.
I think this is a very exciting fight, and I think these are the type of opponents they should be fighting, right? Because who do you give a guy who's been in the UFC for 7 years to, but he's only had 1 fight, right? Like, the list is going to be fairly short for potential opponents, but Charlie Campbell's one of those fun prospects who, is he going to win every fight and become UFC lightweight champion? Probably not, but is he ever going to be in a boring fight? Like, we have Daniel Lacerda on this card who has lost 4 fights in a row, more often than not by stoppage, but guess what?
No, they're all by stoppage.
I know, I'm just saying, most of his losses by stoppage. You know what the problem is, though? They've all been pretty exciting, so it's kind of hard to just say, like, hey, kid, hit the road. We don't want to see you anymore. And I do think Charlie Campbell's going to become one of those types of fighters. Hopefully not gets his UFC career started off on 4 straight losses, but I do think he's going to be a fighter that no matter what his record is in this organization, it's going to be somebody that you want to watch. But for Alex Reyes in this matchup, I'm going to have 2 really hard things that I'm going to be looking out for. A, if he's not able to secure that takedown and he is just forced to being on the back foot, kind of meeting Charlie Campbell's fire with his own fire when he goes for those forward flurries, I think he's going to have some trouble and face a little bit of adversity in those positions. But if he can make Charlie Campbell really work hard early, and I don't mean win takedown attempts and really secure them all, but just make Charlie Campbell burn those arms out, it might take a little bit of the pop out of his shots as this fight does continue, because I don't think Reyes is going to be in there to just eat shots for 15 straight minutes. I think he is going to try to put those wrestling shoes on earlier than later, but it's like what Chael Sonnen always says, like, you don't get better at something by not doing it, right? And with all this time off, it is really concerning to see what version of Alex Reyes we are going to get in this, because you bring it up, quite a few injuries, the amount of time off itself, like, in 6 years, you might be a completely different person, completely different fighter. So for Reyes, I'm going to be really curious to see what types of improvements he's made.
I'll use 2 different examples to try and play it off. You look at a guy like Mike Malott, has a good fighting career.
Who I'm thinking of.
Mike Malott takes a really long time off, becomes coach Team Alpha Male, comes back into competition. Bob's your uncle, he's in the UFC. The other guy that did it was a guy that beat Ike Valley Flag. and then took like 5 years off. That guy, Matt Wyman, lost 3 fights in a row in the comeback, punctuated by that Jordan Levitt slam loss to send him into retirement. So when you look at Alex Reyes, owns that gym, training with guys like Bobby Green down in Southern California, but also mixing it up in Vegas with some really good training partners. So look out for Alex Reyes in this one. Really big on the feet, really heavy shots, but also with the takedowns. When you look at Charlie Campbell, obviously, he's got power in his hands, really long extension on his shots. He utilizes reach in the majority of his fights. He tends to be one of those power punchers out of Longo and Weidman MMA. But when I look at a guy like Charlie Campbell, I have one giant red flag that scares the bejesus out of me in every single fight. Is it the giant, like, slab that he has? Like a Dennis Schroeder bit of, like...
You mean the FIBA MVP Dennis Schroeder? Show some respect.
When I look at Charlie Campbell, when he's in the pocket and he's having success with his strikes, he tends to throw incredibly naked leg kicks, and his hands go from here to down below his waist, and he drops them.
I've got the comp.
He's got awesome leg kicks. You go back and watch his fight with Bellator against Noah Dung. He's a big underdog. That fight in Uncasville, Connecticut, that was headlined by Michael Chandler against Benson Henderson, but Campbell beats him by TKO due to the leg kicks, and Campbell utilizes leg kicks in every single one of his fights to great effect. However, again, he drops his hands so far down, and you saw him throwing a kick, dropping his hands, and eating a right hand in tight from Chris Duncan, and that was his downfall in that fight. So going back and watching all the tape on Charlie Campbell, I thought his takedown defense was pretty good. You saw that against Chunky Boy, 163 for 155. Dos Santos 3 fights ago. Chuck Campbell. Chuck Campbell goes over to
real close,
Chick Magnet Punk, and he's like, call me, get me on the phone. And CM Punk has no idea what to do. It's like he's never touched a mobile device in his life. But when you look at this fight, Matt, again, it was originally supposed to be Natan Levy and Charlie Campbell with about a week's notice to take on Alex Reyes, who's been getting ready for multiple fights for years on end. So, Matt, we don't have any odds posted for this. This fight was just announced, but we do have a look at the Topology vote. Surprise to us there, to you. I'm going to say over under 80% on the younger fighters taking this on short notice.
I think it'll be over, mainly just due to the time off for Reyes.
All right, and it is a lot over. It's 388 total votes, 91% Campbell, 84% by knockout. And I have a hard time taking fighters coming off the layoffs. You mentioned another guy, Chairez Danho, the Man Mountain, with about 4 years off. Fights Jorgen De Castro, beats him by finish, but when there are these guys with these really long bouts of inactivity, I just struggle to take them, especially when you're a few weeks away from your 37th birthday. So for me, I'm going to go with Chuck Campbell, but the leg kick red flag is a giant one if I could throw one up there.
I agree with it 100%. The reasons that you bring up for Campbell potentially getting the loss in this, he does leave some openings when he is having his most success, and that is concerning, right? It's like, I like Dylan Brooks a lot more now because he played for Canada than I thought, but there's some players out there where if they make their first shot, it's kind of the worst thing that could happen to them, right? Because it gives them that false sense of confidence. If Campbell does start moving downhill with a lot of his strikes, it can leave some of the counters. But I just don't know if Reyes, with all this time off, is going to be the guy to really make him pay for it. Once he does start to fight borderline ranked or even ranked lightweights, like guys like Jalen Turner are going to make you pay for things like that in your fighting style. I just don't know if Reyes, again, with all this time off, is going to be that guy.
All right, we'll see who's able to get it done. Will it be the Cannibal or the Executioner? Both of us going with Charlie Campbell out of Longo and Weidman MMA to get the win. Some big-time fights on this card, including Tracy Cortez against Jasmine Jasudavicius up next. You're not going to want to miss it. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, we always say.
Let's get into it.